Hello ladies and gentlemen, so this is kind of in response to my last video with the whole physique update kind of thing. And so I've gotten, well, I haven't gotten many questions, but I've gotten a question or two, which is good enough for me to explain it because I've been thinking about it a lot too. And that is, over the course of this bulk, I put on roughly 20 to 25-ish pounds, depending on the day, whether water weight fluctuated up or down. But I'll give you a picture here. Last year, right before I started bulking, I did a little maintenance phase for a little bit, probably a month. It was kind of a half-assed kind of thing. I didn't track or anything. And then the end of the bulk, and it almost seems as if I put these two pictures right side by side, so you got this picture right here and this picture right here, it almost looks like this is the before picture and this is the after. So the story about that is it pretty much comes down to genetics, where you store your fat, and just overall how you train to make your body look. So I'm gonna take this picture over here, the after picture, which is really almost 8 or 9 months prior to this picture over here. So let me just bring this picture a little bit closer here so you guys can see my totals. I think I was barely doing 225, definitely not more than 1 rep on bench. I pulled 405 one time, complete grinder. I didn't even squat, to be honest with you. I'd be lucky if I could get 5 reps of 225. And my overhead press fluctuated a little bit because I just got done cutting. But the most recent video that I saw that I had on Instagram was 150 by 4, and that 4th rep was just absolute grinder on the way up. So we got 225. Actually, we get 225 for 5 reps. We'll say 265 would have been my absolute max. So we got 225 and 265. We got 540 and then a 405. So it gives me a 940 total. Okay. And a 940 total is ass. It is pretty bad, especially for like a 175, 180 body weight. And actually, I think I cut down to like 165 at the end of my cut. So, okay, I gained about 30 pounds on the bulk. And so, this number total, the 940 number, comes to play in a big part of why I look like this afterwards. So, I started bulking around mid-August, like actually bulking, like eating a considerable amount of food then. And what happens is I had a powerlifting meet. It was a local meet at one of the local gyms. A lighthearted kind of thing. It wasn't a pause bench, just a touch and go bench, squat and deadlift, squat to depth, no hitching on deadlifts and that kind of thing. And so my total for that, I'll see if I can find the videos for it, but I think I had a 335 squat, a 335 squat. I think I ended out at a 405 deadlift, and then I had a 250 bench. I know it was a 250 bench. And thinking off the top, I don't know what the total was, but I'll put it over there after I calculate it. And so as of October, I think it was early to mid-October, that would be my total right there, whatever that number is. I think it was it's between 980 and 1,000. I know that because I know it's not greater than 1,000. I want to say it's 990, but flashing back to that, I'd gotten an email from the person about 2 to 3 weeks prior of the event. And so what I did is I ate as much as I possibly could to just load myself with as much glycogen as possible, have enough energy to be training. And so I did kind of a peak week kind of style. I followed this program, the David Lade program, that I've been following for almost a year now. I'd probably say probably 10 months at most, actually. And so I've been following this, and what I did, I modified it a little bit, and I've been tweaking my bench a little bit, and I actually just started flat benching permanently this past bulk. And so I gained a solid probably 7 to 10 pounds in the span of those 2 weeks, and that's that's unhealthy. It made me bloated. It made me lift more, certainly, but through that, okay, one thing I want to do is that 335 squat, which I think was actually 315 as my last set. I want to say it was. I'm not completely sure. You'll see in the videos, but it's either I think it was 315. And so I started a couple months back. I did a 3. I started recording my squats at a 3x8 with 225. And so I'd worked up to a 315, so I'd increased my squat 90 pounds, which is easy when you've never squatted. And you're increasing every time you go into the gym by 10 pounds on the squat and 10 pounds on the deadlift. That's how I increased it that much. You know, I hadn't actually had that movement, the motor pathways for that movement, I meant to say. And so when you don't have those motor pathways, it's much easier to progress. I didn't have squat shoes when I first started out, and I didn't have my Inzer belt, which made it a little tougher. I did have some lower back and some ankle pain at one point, but with form tweaks, and that's actually why I have that Instagram that I plugged last video. It'll still be in the description for this one. That's why I record all my sets and stuff like that, so I know if I'm ever having pain, any like chronic pain after doing this form for a lift, after months and months and even a year of having shit form on something. That's why my bench press was so bad. I only did incline, and I go to the flat bench and I can't get past 205 for 6 to 8 months, and that's why my bench now is 265 as a max. It's increased 40 pounds on the bulk, but I also didn't have any progress for 3 to 4 months of this bulk, so it makes things a lot harder. And so getting back to the original point, gaining all that weight afterwards, I think I was around 185 to 190 for the following month or so after that, while I was still going to college. And so I was kind of at a dilemma. I knew I didn't look like the way I wanted to. I looked much better in that before picture, the one that I'm calling the quote-unquote after picture here. But it's a lot different when you're in that situation. I can go on a cut for 3 weeks, lose some strength and get leaner, and then restart what I'm doing, or I can just stick with it. And in this case, I tried it out. You live and you learn, and I just stuck with it. And you saw in that case, I didn't look as good, but I physically exploded, but it was covered in visible fat. I now have fat over my abdomen. I see it a lot in my upper chest, but I'm losing that now. This past week I've lost around 10 pounds, probably 5 or 6 worth of body weight. And then I also went off creatine for a little bit, so there's probably another pound or so of water weight that I just pissed out eventually at some point. And so today with my workout, I hit a 200-pound overhead press, standing strict overhead press, which I'll put right here. And so what happens with that is I became so flat and so depleted that today I probably ate around maintenance, or even 100 to 200 calories more, because although 10 pounds in a week with water weight considered, I still lost a good 3 to 4 pounds of just straight body mass, whether it be lean tissue or fat. That's too fast for me. And so what I'm gonna do, and I hadn't had a refeed. I tried to do a refeed, but the way that classes are going right now, I eat my first meal around 11 or 12, so it's hard to get those that kind of calories only within 2 meals. And I don't want to spend outside money on snacks or stuff like that if I really don't need to. So I've lost about 10 to 12 pounds as of right now. I'm sitting a little bit below 190, and so I'm slowly working back into right now maintaining my strength, keeping the volume a little bit higher with accessories, and cutting the volume a little shorter. So what I mean is increasing the volume per set, decreasing the volume by the amount of sets that I do. So if I have a 3x10, I'll do a 2x12 to 15, keeping the same amount of intensity on my compound movement, squat, bench, deadlift, overhead press. And so also I just tried to work around with some sumo, which set back my deadlift a little bit. And so it kind of brings me back to my original point of why at the end of the book, why did I look like shit? And so it kind of gives me this persona of, do you even lift kind of thing. And although it's a tough pill to swallow, it is kind of embarrassing looking back on it. Was gaining 15 pounds really worth coming in second for a meet for my weight class? And so, especially for a small town meet like that, in the end, no. Did I have fun? Of course I did. It was a great experience, and I'll probably do a sanctioned meet sometime this year. It's one of my goals for the year. And the way that I am, I hold a lot of when I first start bulking, I automatically gain a lot of water weight around my hips, which give me a non-aesthetic look. So you see me right now, my lats obviously don't have a pump anymore. I got out from the gym, but you can see that my hips, and I hold a lot of fat right above my hips, which isn't an aesthetic look. You really want that V-taper for the aesthetic look, but I kind of traded that for strength gains, and right now my total has increased somewhere between 60 to 70 pounds over this past whatever amount of time. A 265 bench press, a 355 squat, which I'm working back up to, and tomorrow I actually have a heavy single on squat, so this could change in the matter of 24 hours from now. But a 355 squat, a 435 deadlift, which I'm working back up to now after I got done with my bout with sumo, and then a 200 overhead press as of today. So and that's with an Inzer belt, and I squat with knee sleeves and addy powers. So and I do some of my bench work with a wrist wrap on my right wrist. So if you see me overhead pressing, I might have put the video in somewhere over here. If I didn't, I'll put it in right now. The 200-pound overhead press, you'll see I only have one on my right wrist because I tend to really almost dip. I almost have a hip shift a little bit. And so, in overall terms of strength, I'm happy with what I have. I obviously would want more out of my bench press, only, sporting a 265 bench press at whatever, I think I was like 198, 197 at the end of the bulk. And so it's kind of weak for a 200-pound guy. So, I'm going to cut back down somewhere between 170 and 180, and then, play around from there. That's the goal for now. And so, I hope that explains everything. If you're gonna go on a bulk, take it steady. Even if you have something important like a meet coming up and you want to gain as much weight as possible, I would strongly, how do I word this? I'd want you to weigh out the benefits. So, is gaining a couple pounds of fat extra worth 10, 15 more pounds on your total if you're gonna go all out, balls to the walls on your third attempt every time? If it is, go for it, but for me it just wasn't the right thing to do. As you see, my after picture, which is the before picture, looks way better than when I have an extra 30 pounds on me and almost an extra 75 pounds on my total. So take those things into consideration when you bulk or when you cut, whatever you're doing, strength training, hypertrophy. Make sure you're adding weight to the bar. I hope this explanation helped you. If it did, or if it didn't, leave a comment and let me know what's up. And yeah, sayonara, my friends.